Sid feels he has done a good job and people will talk about Shadow and forget about Sid. A magical door then appears next to him. He moves away, but the door follows him. Realizing he won't be able to escape it, he decides to enter. Another door appeared in the middle of the arena. Nelson wonders if the sanctuary responded to Shadow and explains that the door appears to those who are worthy to pass through it. The door starts opening and Nelson gives orders to remove the citizens and that the trial is cancelled. He then tries to make Alexia and the rest leave, but Shadow Garden appears led by Alpha. She asks Alexia and Rose to not do anything until the door is closed and then enters the door. Epsilon had defeated Nelson's guards and states he will be coming with them inside the gate. Nelson refuses and calls his guard Venom to kill Epsilon. He attempts to cut Epsilon, but the slash ends up cutting her fake slime breasts. Not wanting to be exposed, Epsilon manages to reattach them and quickly defeats Venom. She then asks Nelson if he saw anything, but Nelson states he didn't see anything. Epsilon then grabs him and jumps into the door. Other Shadow Garden members take Beta as hostage and get in the door as well. The door starts to close, but Alexia and Rose jump in as well. Alexia and Rose are transported to where Alpha is. Alexia states she tripped and fell into the door, but Alpha doesn't care and tells her that it's fine. Alpha explains that this is where the hero Olivier cut the Diablo's left arm and they sealed it. They came to learn more about the cult, but know that Nelson won't talk. Alpha then shows her face, which is the same as Olivier. Nelson then realizes she was a possessed elf, but as she wasn't compatible, she should have been dead. Alpha states they know the truth behind Olivier and the possessed. They suspect that the cult goal isn't just reviving the demon and states they should proceed to see for themselves. Alpha then activates the big door and opens it. Sid enters a room where Aurora is and wonders if she summoned him. Aurora states she didn't, but notes they had a fun fight. She wonders how he got here and Sid explains a door showed up and didn't stop following him. He wonders how they can leave, but Aurora states her memory is incomplete and doesn't have any memories of ever leaving. Sid then decides to head back from where he came, but Aurora stops him and asks him what she is wearing and if he can help her. Sid notes it's straitjacket. Sid then frees her and Aurora states since they have the same goal of leaving this place, they should work together. She explains she knows how to free herself and that the sanctuary is a memory prison created from ancient battles. If they go to its center and destroy its magical core, then she will be free. She also notes that they can't use magic and if they try, the magic will be absorbed. Sid agrees and wonders what she will do once she is free, and Aurora states she will vanish into nothing. Alpha and the group explore the facility and Alpha explains that this is the memories of the hero Olivier. Long ago, the cult gathered orphan children and used them for experiments. Most of the children ended up dying and a small group of girls survived. Meanwhile, Sid and Aurora see a memory of young Aurora who is crying. Aurora states that to move forward, they need to end this memory. She slaps the young Aurora, telling her that crying won't change anything, and soon the memory shatters. Alpha explains that Olivier was one of the compatible children and they implanted Diablo cells in her. Nelson states they didn't have a choice as they needed power to fight the demon. Alpha proceeds explaining that once Olivier matured, she was given a mission to extract new cells from Diablos. Olivier remained obedient, believing that if she does her mission, it will lead to people living in peace. But no matter how many parts she cut, the demon still lived. The cult used powerful artifacts to immobilize the left arm and gain more Diablo cells. They were able to create red pills, but its side effects were too strong and not what the cult wanted. They were able to make pills that will grant tremendous power and ageless body. Alpha points to a man in the memory and to Nelson. Alexia and the rest realize it's the same man. Nelson reveals they call the drug beads of Diablos. Alpha states it had two flaws and one of them is the hair loss. Nelson then denies it, explaining that he lost his hair due to stress as he was surrounded by idiots who made him do all the work since he has a mortal body. Alpha then reveals the first flaw is that they need to take the beads once a year or the effect will disappear. The second flaw is that they can only produce small amounts and Nelson reveals it's 12 per year. Alpha guesses that's why the Knights of Rounds contain only 12 members. They have not perfected the beads and believe the key to that is the demon's arm and the hero's descendants with Olivier's blood. She asks Nelson, calling him the 11th of the rounds, if she is correct. Nelson confirms and states he is Nelson the Avaricious. He buffs himself, but in that moment, Delta stabs him from behind and throws him down into the water. Nelson comes out of the water, breaking the memory and separating them into groups. As he faces Alpha and Delta, he multiplies himself. Delta easily cuts down Nelson's copies, but feels something is wrong. Nelson explains that the closer they are to the center of the sanctuary, the more of their power is drained. Alpha adds that at the same time, the closer is Nelson to the center, he gains more power. Nelson was hoping to get even closer, but states this far is enough to be able to defeat them. Sid and Aurora reach another memory, a battlefield with many casualties. They find young Aurora crying flying again, and Aurora takes Sid's sword, wanting to kill her to end the memory. However, the dead return to life and start attacking them. Aurora explains that the sanctuary is rejecting them. Sid wonders what will happen if Aurora dies, and she guesses she will return in the first room where they met. Epsilon's group find a sick person, but as it goes through Epsilon, the person disappears. Epsilon then explains that it probably was a memory that reacted to them and materialized. They find an archive with information about the possessed and realize this could have happened to them too if they didn't met Shadow. Ada had created Polaroid cameras based on information from Shadow, and they take pictures of the information. Sid and Aurora are easily defeating the zombies, but as more are coming, Sid goes and kills the young Aurora, ending the memory. The two then reach the center of the sanctuary. Meanwhile, even though she is losing power, Delta is obliterating Nelson, who is shocked by her power. Aurora tells Sid that they need to destroy the magic core, which is on the other side of the door. Sid considers cutting the chains and the door, but feels the sword will break. Aurora notes there should be a key. There is a sword in front of the door, and Aurora explains it's written on it that it can cut the chains. Looking at it, Sid is sure he won't be able to pull it out from the ground. As he attempts and can't pull it out, he confirms, stating it must be drawn out by the Chosen One. Aurora then sees a sign stating that the Holy Sword can only be drawn by direct descendants. Aurora is surprised that Sid managed to decipher the magical inscription that fast. As there is no other way to open the door, the two then sit down. Watching Delta fight Nelson, Alexia wonders if she is really working with Shadow. She explains that Delta's fighting style is totally different than the sophisticated techniques that he used. As Delta defeats another close of Nelson, the memory breaks and Nelson is surprised she managed to defeat over 100 copies without even breaking a sweat. Alpha states that even if he was able to create 100 copies, they'd all still have one brain and he couldn't control them all that well. Nelson then sees a statue of Olivier and calls for Olivier to come. Olivier comes out, but at the same time Epsilon joins Alpha and states they are done with the investigation and can leave. Nelson is surprised that they are running away, but Alpha explains their objective is to cut off the source of power and now know how the sanctuary defenses work, so they will be returning again. As Alpha and the rest leave, Nelson starts wondering what to say to the rest and guesses he will explain that he lured them here to expose their identities and that with Alpha's blood they can perfect the beads. He then gets a notification that someone is in the sanctuary's center. Sid asks Aurora if she wants to disappear. Aurora explains that once the core is destroyed, she will be free and that this is a prison of memories that repeat into eternity. Sid tells her to wait a bit and soon things will work out. Sid expects the protagonist to show up and be able to pull out the sword. However, Nelson appears and Sid wonders if it's one of those scenarios where the bad guy comes first and tries to stop the protagonist. Sid sees Olivier and that she has the same face as Alpha. Nelson then sends Olivier at them and Sid goes to face her, knowing that she is quite strong. Olivier attacks Sid, who blocks her attacks, but she sends him flying everywhere and ends up breaking his sword. Nelson wonders why is Sid smiling and Sid realizes he indeed is smiling. Olivier attacks again and manages to injure Sid, who notes that a battle without conversation is tedious and that she doesn't have a heart and isn't answering any of his questions. Nelson doesn't understand what he is talking about and orders Olivier to finish him off. Aurora jumps in and asks him to stop. Even though she doesn't remember it well, she knows that no human can defeat Olivier. She tells Sid he have done enough and gave her more new memories that she could have asked. Nelson laughs at her, noting that without magic she can't do anything, but if she agrees to help him, he will spare Sid. Sid interrupts them, stating that he doesn't need help and they shouldn't assume he will lose. Annoyed, Nelson orders Olivier to kill him and she jumps in and stabs him. Sid, who has been keeping his right eye closed for a while, opens it, stating he got them.
Thank you for watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and press the bell so as not to miss new videos. Bye everyone.